Here is how I would learn to code if I started over in 2024. Before we get started, let me tell you a little bit about who I am. My name is Jared Hightower. I've been a developer for 5 years, and I've worked on many projects, ranging anywhere from search engines to blockchain to building mobile apps and much, much more. And if I was to start completely from scratch, this is what I would do today if I kept my industry knowledge but lost all of my skills. So if I was just starting over, the number one thing I would do first is figure out my why. What is my why? Why do I want to learn how to code? Am I interested in game development? Am I interested in building a website? Maybe building a SaaS product for my own company, or a SaaS product for a relative, or just some type of application that's going to help in some way. So number one, start with your why. For me, when I first got started, I definitely wanted to build a bunch of products. I wanted to be able to take the ideas in my head and turn it into something functional. So getting into code allowed me to do that. I was able to learn a few skills to get something functional and share it with my friends, and that was super exciting for me. Number two, figure out what your current job market looks like. What I would do is I would Google all of the companies in my area and figure out what they're looking for in terms of skills, what's available today, but also think about what might be available tomorrow. With all the uprise in AI and all those things that's coming from AI, I know a lot of people have been talking about don't learn to code.
It is our job to create computing technology such that nobody has to program.
If you still learn to code, you'll learn how to problem solve, and there's a ton of benefits just learning how to code. So I encourage everyone to still learn how to code regardless of what these big tech companies are saying, because you'll earn valuable skills from that. Now, with that said, diving back into the job market, I'd make sure I look for potential companies I would want to work for, companies that I would apply to regardless of me getting accepted or not, just as practice. You know, I'd write down all the potential companies that I'd basically go after. Some I would just throw my application at, others I would actually want a chance in. But again, the important piece here is to see what type of technologies they're looking for so that you can go off and learn those technologies. Number three, getting started. If I was to start completely from scratch today in 2024, the technology I would use would be completely different from when I started back in 2019. Today, what I would do is start with Python. And the reason for that is because the entire boom of the AI movement right now, a lot of things are written in Python. So when I first started, I decided to go down the front-end development path. But again, this is going to be determined based on your reasons why you're learning how to code. So don't let my opinion persuade you on what programming language you should learn. I still think learning HTML, CSS, and JavaScript is by far the most popular route to go. And the reason for that is because of web development. There's such a demand and a need for a lot of web developers. And if you learn the right technologies and you stay consistent with a lot of these technologies, you can grow tremendously and take those skills and move that into a brand new programming language. The concepts are basically the same. There's just some minor differences. Going back to what I would do in 2024, I would learn Python, and the reasons for that is because I want to prepare myself for a lot of the things that are going to be needed when companies start to integrate a lot of this AI technology. Okay, now that we have our why, now that we've done our market research in our area, and now that we know what technologies we're going to work with, let's address the path. If I was starting over completely from scratch, is the self-taught route. So you have the self-taught route, you have the bootcamp route, or you have the college route where you go in and get your computer science degree. The path that I would take first is the self-taught route, and here's why. I would first work with the technologies that I'm trying to get comfortable with, and I'd write a few programs, get used to just the entire ecosystem of those technologies, try to come up with something small on my own to see if I even enjoy that process. Once I've determined that I do enjoy it, or this is something I'd like to expand on, or if you feel confident enough to go out there and build more projects, you could use YouTube University to kind of dive into free material first. I would always go the free route first, hands down. Do the free route first. Do as much as you can in the free route before you give someone else your hard-earned money. Because at the end of the day, you're gonna have to do this research anyways when you go out and build projects. So if you can develop that early on when you're learning how to code, you're gonna be that much better once you get into a program, whether it's a bootcamp program or your computer science degree. So to summarize all of that, if I was to start over in 2024, I would do as much free stuff first in my chosen language and technologies. Then if I feel like I needed additional help, or I wanted to ask someone more questions about the technology as I'm developing, or if I even needed like more structure to it, because I've already done a lot of the free route materials that's on YouTube, I would already have an interest in the technology, which will make the process of going through those programs a lot easier and a lot more engaging. Number 4 would be create projects. As you're starting to learn, create as much projects as you can. Once you get comfortable figuring out the syntax of your chosen language, for me at the time it was JavaScript. So once I figured out all the data types and how all of the data types work, how to write for loops and just basic coding skills within that technology, then I moved on to actually building projects. I'll show you my first project that I built somewhere here on this screen, and it wasn't the best, but I got started. And I started doing that on my own because I wanted to master the technology prior to like really getting into coding. Again, this is something that's going to help you tremendously. Build projects, build projects, build projects. It doesn't have to be nice. It doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to get done. And going through that struggle is the learning process. So that's what I would do if I started completely over from scratch in 2024. I'd start building as early as possible. I would fail as early as possible so that I can learn those lessons as early as possible. Number 5, become an expert Googler. As I was talking about building projects, you're going to fail. You're going to run into a lot of problems and things that you've probably never encountered before because you're working with brand new technology and you're stretching and expanding yourself. One of the most important things when it comes to learning how to program is being an expert Googler. Like, if you know how to ask the right questions in Google, you will solve your problems 10 times faster. Number 6, network. Now, my opinion on how you should network in 2024 and what I would have done is I'd first make a YouTube channel, document my experience, and then use that as a networking tool so that I could go out there and connect with either recruiters, other developers, maybe other developers that's also just on their journey that might also be on YouTube. I connect with them as early as possible so that I can develop that relationship, because they might have connections that, you know, they could introduce me to, and because I'm already documenting that information on YouTube, they can point to specific videos or share that content with people that they know, and vice versa. If people are searching for new hires and I have my YouTube channels and all of my YouTube videos in the links provided in my LinkedIn or maybe a resume or whatnot, they can easily look you up, figure out who you are, what you do instantly without having to get you on the phone and figure those things out. But if you're not someone that wants to put your face in front of a camera, what I would do is I'd go to networking events. I do networking events. I just reach out to people that are working at like these bigger companies, and I'd talk to them. I'd ask them what their day-to-day looks like, how hard it was to get into that particular company, and what I should learn, and just start asking questions to build that relationship. Those are a few tips that I would use to expand and start networking early. Now, if you stuck around this long, the bonus tip that I would give that I still use to this day, and I value this skill or this lesson more than anything within my programming journey, and that is communication. If you do not know how to communicate your ideas, your projects, your implementation, you are going to be very difficult to work with. I'm gonna be honest. I remember working with individuals in the past where they couldn't explain the code that they wrote, and they were trying to teach me the ropes and kind of get me familiar with the code base, but because they could not communicate how everything worked, the trade-offs, why it was implemented the way it was very, very hard work with that individual. And what I've learned over time is that you shouldn't just have these awesome technical skills, but you should have really great communication skills, because when you're working with stakeholders, if you're working with clients because you want to do freelancing, at the end of the day, they're going to want to know that you can communicate with them. You can communicate deadlines. If you're not able to hit those deadlines, you're also able to communicate that, and being able to have that open dialogue and not hide behind just your technical skills to do the work for you. Yeah, I would say knowing how to communicate is by far the most important skill that anyone can develop while on this journey. And what I use whenever I'm doing written communication is I use Grammarly. Grammarly is by far the best, not sponsored or anything like that, but I use Grammarly like every single day for just about 100% of my conversations, because I want to make sure I'm articulating my ideas correctly. So if you need to improve in those skills as you're learning how to code, what I would do is I'd go to a relative, or I would go to maybe like a sibling, or if you have a spouse or a child. When you're done building something, go to them and try to explain the thought process behind it and what you did. They're gonna look at you like you're crazy, but it's gonna help you articulate those ideas much better. So again, they don't have to understand the technology fully, but your goal when doing that is to be able to communicate in such a way where it makes some sense to them. And if you can do that and practice that as you're starting to build your skills, you'll become that much better in your technical communication. So that's all. That's gonna wrap up the video. I appreciate you guys sticking around. If you like this content, feel free to like, subscribe below. If you want to learn something in particular, the journey that I'm on is here to really share all of the things that I've learned, but also build and teach you guys how to do it as well if you're just starting out, and make sure that, you know, I'm able to provide tips to people who have been in the industry. So if I can add value in that way, I definitely plan on doing that. So again, feel free, like, subscribe, share this with a friend if you find value, and until the next video.